Välkomna till vårt ELITS live talk som idag ska handla lite grann om hur vi ska utveckla våra appar snabbare och smartare med hjälp av containers. Mitt namn är Fredrik Wikberg, jag ska vara er moderator i det här samtalet idag och tillsammans med mig så har jag två gäster. Dels har vi Matti Nieminen från Red Hat, vi har Takeshi Larsson från ELITS. Matti pratar engelska så att vi kommer köra resten av själva presentationen och diskussionen på engelska, vilket jag hoppas är okej. So, welcome guys. I just did a short introduction in Swedish. Matti, welcome.
Thank you.
Please give us a short introduction. Who are you?
Hi, hi everybody. My name is Matti Nieminen. I work for Red Hat. Been working for 3.5 years now as a cloud sales specialist. So I focus on all things automation and cloud and hybrid cloud technologies here in Red Hat.
Nice to have you, Matti. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we also have Takeshi Larsson. You're an employee at ELITS. What do you do, Takeshi?
I work with Kubernetes mainly right now. I've been having a lot of experience with OpenShift previously, and I've been helping customers, reach their goals to move to a more cloud-oriented environment, both for the infrastructure and for the developers using it.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right. So my name is Fredrik. I'm managing the team here at ELITS that focus on DevOps and development. We're about 20 people in that team, and in ELITS as a company, we're about 100 employees, but a bit more on that later. So today we're going to talk about containers and how you can move your apps quicker and faster by using containers. But I just want to give you a short introduction to ELITS. Who are we and what do we actually do? So we're a Swedish-based IT company, founded and with headquarters in Linköping. We mainly focus in 4 different areas. There are cloud services, DevOps, methodology and tools, development services, mainly focused on cloud development. And then, of course, infrastructure and operations, which is our strongest focus area in the company and where we are born and founded from. So we have a global presence, even though we're a small Swedish company. Like I said, we're about 100 and so employees. We're located in 4 different locations in Sweden, headquarters in Linköping. We have offices in Karlskrona, Göteborg, and Stockholm. But we also have presence in Aachen in Germany and in Montreal, Canada. So we're truly a small but global IT company that can help you with pretty much anything that you require when it comes to modern infrastructure and operations. So like I said, we're basing our company out of 2 different areas really. It's cloud related services, and that's including development and DevOps. And then we have the infrastructure and operations, and we do this supported by different partners. And of course, Red Hat is a very important partner for us, since Red Hat can actually solve a lot of the business issues and problems that we see our customers face every day. So it's really interesting to see that we can talk about OpenShift today and see how we can benefit from using containers. But Red Hat is so much more than just OpenShift. Isn't that true, Matti?
Correct it is. And I can give you a short intro of what Red Hat is all about. So to the best describe Red Hat is really to talk about us being an enterprise software company with an open source development model. And that is very key, because it really is, open source is really the essence of our company DNA and the way we operate. In the open source community, maybe consisting of something like 16, 17 million developers globally, they are working on roughly on something like 1 million different, projects currently. And Red Hat is very proud to participate, greatly in these various projects. I mean, we have thousands of engineers in our company who are actively, taking part in the open source projects. And that's how we really, come about to deliver the innovation in terms of the commercialized offering that we provide. So, I mean, lately, if we look at the open source community, all of the, the latest and greatest stuff, it really derives from the open source innovation. There's so many eyes on the code. It's a fast developing community, and new stuff and visionaries and innovation it just happens there. So it makes sense for us to be there as well. But it might not always be safe as such for enterprises to start immediately adopt that open source software. So what we do as a company, as Red Hat, is that we look into the open source community. We find the best and the most innovative software that we feel that can be of benefit to enterprises. We bundle them, we integrate them together, we harden the code, we strengthen it, we fix it, we get rid of vulnerabilities, and we package it into a ready-made product with an enterprise lifecycle and 24/7 support. And then we release it as commercial software that enterprises can consume. So they get innovative software with no risk of using it, because we are there to support. And not only after this, it doesn't end there. We're not just there to consume, but we push the ready-made software back into the community so it can become better. Mm-hmm. So that's how we operate. And if I can continue over here, because today, we're going to be largely discussing about maybe one of the key technology solutions, that we provide, Red Hat OpenShift container platform. It really is an innovation that is needed and that has been sought after for quite a while. And it all comes down, when we talk about digital transformation. Digital transformation has been for many years kind of like a massive driver for companies, to change and to evolve. And if we look about the last year, we made a massive leap in doing that because of the way of working that has changed radically. But the business goals are clear. We need innovation. We need the new stuff. We need the kind of tools that, give us the ability to stay competitive. Not only that, but we also need the speed. We need to put more of this new and innovative stuff quicker to the market for end users and customers to consume. But also in a flexible manner that doesn't, lock us into one specific way of doing things, but rather gives us the ability in an open source world to move our workloads as necessary, but still kind of retain that unified way of doing things at the same time. So we see a lot of pressure in today's organizations to offer, these services to end customers, because things are not getting any easier. You have different clouds, you have a lot of different tools. So what is the kind of right choice?
All right. Well, thank you, Matti. This really transforms really well into what we at ELITS call a journey to agile, and it really is a way to describe the transformation that organizations need to be doing. And it's not about the technology and the products and the containers and what have you. It is more about how you actually embrace the change within the organization, how you actually get your developers to interact with the tools that they have in front of them. So we like to call this the journey to agile, and the idea here is that everyone really started off in a virtualized server environment rather quickly, 20 some years ago, and then shifted more into the cloud infrastructure. You're spinning up your virtual machines in different cloud environments, which was in itself an improvement, but probably didn't give you that much of a process benefit. Then you start looking into more container-based solutions, which is the focus of this session today. And you see that by embracing the technology and actually getting your operations and development teams working together in a more DevOps manner, you can actually benefit greater from that. And we'll talk about a bit more about that later on today. But my point with this slide is really that it's not about the tech, it's about the people, it's about the processes, and we can't forget that when we're talking about DevOps, we're talking about containers, we're talking about all these different tools that helps us. But we need to keep that in mind when we're actually starting to implement all these tools.
You're very correct, Frederick. And if I can give you kind of like a real world example over here, is that I've seen a slide many times, that says that DevOps is like 20% technology and 80% of culture change. And it's very true. I mean, of course, we can provide the newest technology that has the ability to enable a lot of things, but if you don't have the culture inside the company to kind of understand how will this change, what we have done before, and how can we embrace it better, how can we change ourselves to match the technology. It is, for example, we were working with an insurance company in Finland, and OpenShift, we got it in, and it was amazing. It solved a lot of different problems. The ability to release software much quicker than the traditional way. And but the danger over there is that if the company is a legacy kind of mindset company, and they are so fixed and used to working in the old way, the DevOps people will get frustrated, and in the end, they might leave the company. Mm-hmm. And that's also a big risk. So it is very, very important to start changing the ways of working, to form these kind of new communities of practice and DevOps teams, and kind of make it grow inside the company. So it's not just about the infrastructure and how that's being used, but it's also the operations, and it's also the new teams and how we can share and collaborate with information better.
Takeshi, do you have any hands-on experience in this area when it comes to introducing tools to developers and just not talk about products and technology?
Well, I try to understand their problems. What is it they're trying to solve? If it's that their bills are slow, or if they're having issues like automating deployments, for example. A lot of the environments I've been to so far has been that the developers have already started with container-based deployments, but the infra team or the infra teams haven't really come up to their stage where that they have anything prepared for them. That there's no OpenShift or Kubernetes anywhere to be found, and they're still using, for example, Docker to start their servers, and there's no observability and to see where the things are running, where the application is running, and how they are how they're feeling. So I've been helping them a lot with like starting communication between the two teams to make sure that they can understand each other's needs and why dev wants this and why ops want to do it in a specific way. And then hopefully in the end they'll come to an agreement there, really, that there needs to be a change. But that it's always, like I say, it's always with the people you need to start with DevOps. You need to understand each other.
It's all about the handshake.
Yeah. That's where I try to come in, really.
All right, super. Well, Matti, can't you take us a bit through what is OpenShift and what is it used for?
Yes, definitely. So let's take a small trip, back the memory lane, because it's very, very important to understand. And the thing that is important to understand over here is Kubernetes and containers. Back in the day when Red Hat developed OpenShift, we didn't have Kubernetes as the orchestration layer in OpenShift, but it was around 2015, early 2015, when Google came to Red Hat, and there was actually meetings around, that Google said that, we've kind of developed this kind of orchestration framework for containers called Kubernetes, and we'd kind of like to take it into the open source community. So can you help us do it? So Red Hat, from the beginning, since 2015, we embraced Kubernetes, and we immediately switched to Kubernetes inside our OpenShift offering. And we also released Kubernetes and wanted to make it better by kind of getting attraction on it in the open source community. So, like we discussed in the beginning about, the business goals of actually doing these things, innovation, speed, flexibility, these are important things, and you cannot kind of not talk about containers or Kubernetes when you talk about digital transformation, because in essence, it's all about cloud native workloads. It's all about, making things happen faster, more granular level, and in a kind of flexible manner that allows you to move workloads freely. And that's where containers come in, because they are kind of extracted from the operating system layer, so they become more kind of available to be built into microservices, for example. And Kubernetes is key because it has become, the de facto standard and winner of how, containers are being managed in a good way with a good kind of life cycle. So when companies want to do digital transformation, and when they want to really become better and take and leverage the different kind of sources, for example, data and analytics and artificial intelligence or machine learning, or, if they want to collaborate, with ISVs, start creating, cloud native stuff, that's, when they need to start to look into Kubernetes as well. And Red Hat OpenShift is enterprise ready Kubernetes. Like we saw in the first picture with the, the open source community, Kubernetes is one of those projects, and Red Hat has bundled it together with the most important stuff to make it ready and easily consumable for companies to immediately start working on these, things that we see on the top here. And we see that open is the way to go. We see that, you shouldn't, we want our customers to have choice. If you want to go physical or virtual, if you want to have it on your private cloud or in the public cloud or in the edge, you can use Red Hat OpenShift anywhere in any kind of footprint. And that's one of the key business benefits as well, is to standardize and to have that kind of one way, one method of working. The developers would have kind of one similar interface, And I mean, developers just want to develop. They don't really want to care about the infrastructure. So the solution needs to be the kind that allows quick and easy development for the developers, but at the same time offer security and manageability and automation for the infra people and for the operation people to handle.
Should we look into more detail what OpenShift actually is then?
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
So this is a busy slide, but bear with me. OpenShift is what we like to call like enterprise Kubernetes platform. And we are now in 2001, and we already started to develop OpenShift back in 2015 with Kubernetes. So we have a lot of we've seen a lot of stuff, going bad and, going good. And, we've been doing a massive amounts of, work by today, where we see that other vendors are just starting. So OpenShift is not just Kubernetes, but OpenShift is everything that we see is critical for enterprises to run containers in business critical environments in a big scale for your containerized workloads. So as we can see, the stack over here is that everything is, of course, because containers are Linux. We are very proud, to have our Red Hat Enterprise Linux or our Red Hat Enterprise Linux Core OS, in the bottom as the operating system to run Kubernetes, and then all the different cluster services, for example, that are needed. So we have the automation pieces, we have over-the-air updates, we have monitoring tools, we have a registry, networking, router. We have all of these important cluster services integrated and built into OpenShift. But also we have very key platform services, application services, and developer services that can be bundled on top of that. So if we talk about, for example, a service mesh or CI/CD pipelines, chargeback options, or if we want to look at different runtimes and languages and integration or API management, which we can bundle as the application services to OpenShift as well, to really allow the building of the cloud native applications. Developers love OpenShift, and we as Red Hat think that developers are very key and important today. And we want to give them, the best, command line interfaces or, Visual Studio Code ability extensions or plugins, or, offer them our code-ready workspaces, developer tools to use, so they can be the most productive, and do exactly what they want to do, which is to develop. And over here, we have an additional product actually here portrayed called the multi-cluster management. So we have a product called Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management, which is actually a very integral product to secure and manage Kubernetes environments at scale. So you may have OpenShift somewhere, and OpenShift may be in a public cloud or with a service provider, different clusters here and there. Or maybe you have a test and dev environment and you're using just Kubernetes in some other cloud. But with Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management, you have a single pane of view for all of these Kubernetes clusters, and you can run policies towards them. I mean, you can kind of reboot and create new Kubernetes clusters easily, and at the same time, integrate them with your company's policies, so they are immediately up to your security standards. So what we're talking about OpenShift here, as a recap: automated full stack installation, seamless Kubernetes deployment, immediately auto-scaling, for the cloud resources, and over one-click updates, and everything, each one of these pieces working together, seamlessly integrated, offered, by Red Hat with enterprise-grade support. I mean, this is a ready-made solution And of course, you can do it yourself. You can download a new version of Kubernetes every month and take care of all of these other boxes over here. But then you are responsible for maintaining all of them. You are responsible for doing vulnerability checks, integration checks. And if maintaining Kubernetes is not your core business, then I think it makes sense to really buy the enterprise product.
It must be quite a handful, quite a big job to keep everything updated. Of course, if you go the build your own way, so to speak. But Takeshi, what do you see as the upside from a more of operations perspective from an OpenShift platform rather than build your own kind of solution?
Well, I can agree with Matti that maintaining a Kubernetes platform without using OpenShift, just plain Kubernetes, is very time consuming. It's really time consuming to make sure that you have update all your different services running in Kubernetes, for example, maintaining the service mesh, all the different types of integrations that you have. Everything that's talking to the Kube API has to be updated to make sure that all the APIs are in sync, really, and it's a lot of work goes into that. But a lot of benefits from the infra side is that when you're using OpenShift, you don't really have to focus on all of those things. And when the developers want to have a workspace to work with, it's very easy to just give them a namespace, you set the quota and the limits, and then they're ready to go. There's not really much you need to do there for them to get started, and they save a lot of time on that. They don't need to create virtual machines. They maybe have a automated process to set up virtual machines, but from experience, I've just quite recently, not everyone has that. So it's a lot of work to do. I mean, just to get an application team running. If they want to have a new server, or if they want to deploy a new service, everything goes through the infra team, and they are just overloaded, really. So that's one of the benefits with OpenShift.
It's one of them. All right.
Yeah, the developers are given the power to help themselves, I guess you could say, and they want to be more in control. That's what I've noticed, at least.
So, Matti, would you say that developers, is that you said that your Red Hat loves developers. Is that your target group, really? You focus on developers, or?
Well, when we talk about OpenShift, definitely developers are the key, because they are the ones, using the platform to deliver the business value in the end. And the best experience that we can provide developers, that means that the partnership with the account will grow, and of course they get more services out to the market quicker, and this platform has a lot of infrastructure benefits. Just going to containers. We're probably going to see some infrastructure reduction costs, but it really is, making things happen faster. Automation, and automated pipelines and everything. And so what we really focus on, giving the developers, the right tools to make the magic happen.
But what about all these customers that they don't have a big development department in-house? They just run a bunch of apps, but they don't actually develop them themselves. Can they benefit from OpenShift as well?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it is, a way for them to really launch, the cloud native applications that they want to. I mean, and it really gives them the kind of portal to also join public clouds if needed. And if they have in-house OpenShift but they don't have developers, they can always give access rights if they have partners that can do the developing. So they can give access rights, and role-based access control and everything for outside developers to develop on top of OpenShift for that specific account. So it's a very, very, very powerful platform.
All right. So Takeshi, from an operations perspective, what do you see are the business benefits using OpenShift? Is it more? Is it how should I phrase it? Is it easier to maintain, or is it easier to get training? Is it easier to train people who are not as familiar with OpenShift as you are?
To train infra people, you mean, or?
Yeah, from an operations perspective, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I say that if you have a operations team, that they need less access to the underlying hardware, since they usually just need to operate the OpenShift platform for the developers, and then you would maybe have like a third line operating, managing the hardware. But with OpenShift, I don't really think you should have pets. You should be cattle. So if you have a node that's not feeling well, you just redeploy it and then add it to the cluster. So in that sense, we don't really, depending on the problem, you wouldn't spend so much time troubleshooting, I guess, in that sense. But it's still important to find out why something has broken, obviously. But it's more of a dynamic environment, I guess you could say. It's not as reactive to, since you're expecting the platform to somehow self-heal itself, I guess you can say. That is one of the benefits with Kubernetes, that all the applications are benefiting from the core Kubernetes ideology, I guess, where you have everything running as replicas and things like that. So they don't really spend too much time maintaining applications, or not maintaining, but they don't look after the application the same way. You look at how all the replicas running. If something goes down, it usually comes up again. And if you're running replicas, the service doesn't go down because it's all load balanced within the cluster and things like that. A lot of the application maintenance and support is now put on to the developers, so that the infra teams have more time to actually develop their own infra services, I would say. And that's something they don't really have today, I would say. A lot of time is spent on fixing issues, firefighting, and
Keeping the lights on.
Yeah, and that kind of thing is removed.
Yeah. Well, that is exactly, actually, if I can comment, is what Takeshi said, that that is kind of like one of the things that is new, because we're kind of bringing the cloud-like capabilities into on-premise environments. So that is like one of the things that needs to be understood and kind of learned, because it's a very different way of doing things. And for example, maintaining virtual machines. So because this is the way kind of the cloud operates, if something goes wrong, get rid of it, and automatically there's a new instance, and that's that. I mean, and you have the scalability, and you have the ability to scale horizontally, but also vertically, to add CPU, RAM, and then different instances of the service.
So you're saying that from an operations team's point of view, it's a different way of operating a Kubernetes platform. It's not as reactive. It's more automated. It's more focused on finding solutions rather than finding problems.
Yeah, and a lot of automation is being built in. So I mean, and the remediation of that will be also automated. So once you kind of build it and you build the policies around that, it's very easy to fix what goes wrong.
Yeah, the biggest issues I've had is when resources run out, when nothing can be deployed. That's the biggest problems I've had, really. So
that is a big problem.
Yeah.
Speaking about problems, Matti, do you have any real world examples or cases you can share with us? Since we're talking about the business value of OpenShift, and how some of your customers actually try to tackle those problems.
Yeah, so I mean, like I did give you the one example of the challenge that might sometimes come up. Is because if you introduce a new piece of technology, but the company itself is in a very kind of legacy state, and they have a lot of like burden, and it really comes down to the management, that how kind of visionary are the managers, how do they want to embrace the new stuff and the DevOps mindset, because they have the power to kind of change the culture, and it needs to change one by one, and it needs to spread. But if the company doesn't give you kind of the environment to change, but they stick to their hierarchy, they stick to their kind of matrices, that's when the new stuff will not have any room to flourish, so to speak. So then there's the risk of that your best people, your greatest minds who want to do the DevOps stuff, they leave the company and they go to work for ELITS and other great DevOps mindset partners. But that's a real case. But then if we talk about the benefits, right? Because we've been talking about like technology here and how we can make things faster, and of course speed is a very, very important factor. And the way we've seen many customers benefit from OpenShift is just the amount of time reduced to develop software, to do like automated testing, automation through the pipelines. For example, with a bank we worked here in the Nordics, they were working in a kind of old traditional kind of waterfall software development method, which you have your staging and testing and pre-production and production, etc. So when we implement an automated container-based solution like OpenShift, we can build so much of automation and kind of automated testing. So every time you hit a roadblock, you kind of start it again, do changes, and you go, and you can automate this process. So this bank, that if they wanted to make a change in the software, it will take them 2 weeks normally because of all the provisioning and all the old stuff, working with VMs. Now they could actually make a change and push it through the pipeline in 20 minutes. And drastically, changing 2 weeks to 20 minutes is massive. Another example actually is the Finnish Asiakastieto, which is a public reference. And Asiakastieto actually just they bought a Swedish-based company called UC. So they do this company credit checks and loan checks. Is that they actually benefited because they reduced, they are using OpenShift, and then they are also using the integration bundle on top. So it has a technology called Quarkus, and Quarkus is this kind of subatomic Java motor, which is amazing, and it really makes your Java applications work quicker. For example, Asiakastieto, they reduced their memory footprint by 90%, and the throughput was improved by 25%, and I think the CPU consumption was also reduced about 70%. So this is one aspect of showing that this is how much we have kind of reduced or increased by numbers. But what does that actually mean in kind of real life? Well, what actually it meant that Asiakastieto, they reduced the time needed for the production development cycles by 95%. So it typically took them to deploy software into production in about an so I was saying that it took them about 1 day to deploy software into production, and now when they made the changes, they can do it in less than 1 hour. And at the same time, Asiakastieto, they used to set 2 mornings per week, 2 mornings per week aside, to do this development process and testing. So when they could reduce that 1 day into 1 hour and get rid of those 2 mornings, we have 52 weeks per year, and you reduce kind of like 2 mornings per every week. That is the kind of time, and that's the kind of financial benefit that you gain, because you can actually make your team do a lot more beneficial stuff than just keeping the lights on.
But Takeshi, from your, since your focus is mainly on operations, or that's your background anyway, what do you see are what are the business benefits from an operations point of view when we're talking about platforms like OpenShift?
Well, it's less time managing everything. A lot of time is not really spent on maintaining OpenShift, I'd say. It's a lot of time is spent on supporting developers.
So you're saying that you can free up time from the operations team to actually support and help other teams with more important stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it's no longer about, I have to take care of this service. It's more about, at least from my experience, I've been helping a lot of developers understand OpenShift and understand Kubernetes, and then in that turn, they help other people and their other team members. So it's more about, it becomes more about communication in the team, I'd say. So I don't really know what to say there, since I haven't really had to maintain OpenShift in a way I have to maintain traditional IT environments. It's been a lot easier.
Yeah, but that's a good thing then.
Yeah,
that's a really good thing then, to free up time.
And I guess also, there's the question around security as well, because if you decide to do a lot of things yourself, and you're working directly like with open source projects, there's a big kind of there is a risk that there's some component in the bundle is flawed and needs to be fixed. So there's a lot of stress and time will be also consumed into hardening kind of your own do it yourself environment.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, Matti, reduce complexity. I guess that's one key, to actually have a stack of software that integrates really well with each other, and like you said, are secure from end to end. I mean, there's so many components to keep track of, so that can of course be rather complex in itself.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So, but Matti, since you're talking to a lot of customers about engaging in OpenShift projects, who's your target customer? Is it the CIO? Is it the operations team? Is it the developers, or is it all three of them, or is it someone else from the business side? I mean, who are you really looking forward to talk to?
Very good question, because I mean, it is a solution that really needs to be discussed with everybody, but from different angles, right? Because you need to present it to the infrastructure people as the kind of new thing. If they're familiar with VMs and they don't really know yet or haven't been able to look into containers, there's a mindset shift. So definitely, we need to have a discussion of, how can the infra people serve, the developers and business better, and OpenShift can enable you to do that. And at the same time, we love to and want to talk with developers, because the developers have so much, say in kind of which tools a company should use. So we need to win the developers, and we need to kind of show them, the ease of use and the ease of kind of developing on OpenShift, so they don't have to worry about the infra stuff. We talk with the infra people about that stuff. But also it's a business level discussion in the sense, and a C-level discussion with the management, because they are thinking of, they are thinking kind of the broader scale, right? Do I go Google? Do I go Amazon? Do I go Microsoft, Azure? Will I get logged in? Who owns the data? Is there a way for me to get out if needed, or by regulatory, policies that our company has, for example? So that's when we have a kind of a broader conversation with the management on, OpenShift as a platform that doesn't lock you into these different clouds. It gives you ability to move to and from and back and from these different clouds. So it gives you the freedom of choice. And then, it's about standardization. It's about, the vision of, Red Hat, how we go forward, and what is our position in the container market, really. So there's several types of conversations to be had.
I share that view, Matti. I think there's different discussions with different counterparts, really, and it's all about understanding the entire picture, so you can provide the best solution for whatever that need that that particular customer is having. We've been talking about Kubernetes a lot today, and I just wanted to challenge you a bit by so I'm gonna give you the question each and every one of you, but is really Kubernetes the answer to everything, Takeshi? Is that the silver bullet that will solve all our problems?
No, I wouldn't say this. I mean, as we've said a lot about DevOps, it's about the culture. It's about making sure that everyone is on the same page on where you want to take the company. So just because you have OpenShift or just because you have Kubernetes doesn't automatically give you DevOps. It gives you the tools for DevOps. It gives you the way forward, I guess you could say. It empowers you. It makes it easier to get there. But I wouldn't say it's a silver bullet to solve all problems. You still have to utilize it correctly to make sure.
So you have to understand it, you have to embrace it, and you have to take it underneath your wings, really.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to. All the teams that start working together. It's about not being different silos. It's about working together and to utilize the tools in the best way. If it's either with CI/CD or with infra or the resources. That's what I would say anyway. Yeah.
We see that the adoption for containerized workloads is growing. So I mean, we actually did a study. We did a study as Red Hat in EMEA for about 1,400 different customers, and 63% of those customers said that 1 year from now, so 12 months in the future, 40% of their applications will be containerized. And today, the same figure is that 30% of those 1,400 customers said that they have 40% of their applications containerized. So we're going to be seeing, a lot of emphasis and a lot of workloads will be running in the containerized environments 1 year from now. But not everything can be immediately containerized. I mean, we have some legacy stuff. We have massive, applications. We have mainframe. We have, the databases that might have different, commercial models. So everything is not ready to be containerized. But we are definitely increasing the amount of applications that will be put on top of containers.
I can say that on some engagements I've had other teams talk, or the team that I've been working with developing in OpenShift, they've spoken and talked to other teams about OpenShift, and they've also become interested in containerizing their applications and having the same fast deployments as they do. So it's been a bit of a catalyst for other teams as well. A bit of a talk within the company, like we've been using OpenShift deploy, and we've there's no more. Okay, so I had some teams tell me that before they used to have like a champagne bottle when they're gonna go to production, but now it's just a click on the button and then they're there. So it's been like anticlimactic, but it's also very stress-free, I guess you could say. And it's only them pressing the button. There's no deployment team or infra team involved. It's all them doing it. And the other developers have become really interested through that, hearing those stories. So,
yeah,
those are great stories, and that's why we need to share them. Of course, that we can actually bring value in all these different areas. More from an ops, more from a dev, more from a business side. So I guess there's value to be seen or to be capitalized on all three levels.
Yeah.
And just to wrap it up a bit today, I mean, we talked about all these different areas, all these different ways of making the most out of your Kubernetes platform, and of course position OpenShift as the preferred way of doing this. And we at ELITS together with Red Hat has packaged this as a more of a quick start package for you guys to, if you're interested to learning more and get started, like Takeshi said, to get started, get your developers in, get your operations people up and running. There's a small start package that we put together so we can train you, we can implement an OpenShift platform for you, and share some of the knowledge and the wisdom that we collected over the years. So feel free to go into elits.se/quickstart to read a bit more about this offer and how we can help you guys to actually find the benefits on all three levels. And with that, I would like to say my thanks to Matti. Thanks for joining, Matti, today. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you, Takeshi, for your insights from a more project-oriented side of the matter. And thanks to everyone who joined today. And we'll see you out there. And hopefully a year from now, the container loads that we're talking about will increase. So thank you so much, and have a great day. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.